Okay, after all the fire, after all the rage, after all that, it should be okay to express my opinion. Alright, let's do this. There are series that display a moment of triumphant and greatness that compels you into thinking how amazing it was to bestow upon. Series like Naruto and Bleach have their share of great display moment that is flashy to the eye of the beholder. However, when it comes to looking into the big picture, its moment profoundly suffer from the lack of integrity, weak momentum, and disjointed long-term planning. Fairy Tail had the opportunity to dodge the problem they suffered and make up for some of its questionable choices. It fails to exceed. Honestly, after reading the chapter, I was left with a moment of silence, of not knowing on how to react or what to think about the overall. I already sensed the fans, or haters to be exact, hoping for me or anyone to lash out and become heel against Mashima and his work. I no longer have that intention to pull any of those stunts. You can read or watch any other reviews for some rant that probably hope to look good for the haters, so if you're hoping for a hate rant, it won't happen here. That doesn't mean I like the chapter though, because in the end, I ended up feeling very underwhelmed. I'll get the good part out of the way. Ichiya's death was surprisingly unexpected on my end, so that's actually something that never occurred to my mind. Quite honestly, his last moment of fame was actually quite good. I thought if he has to die, at least Mashima gave him a strong end moment for his character. It ended in a fitting way, with a mix of an unexpected death and manly way to end no less. This ends up being nicely done. The presentation plays off as a moment of triumphant is upon us as we see Zerov and Natsu power struggle with a shonen fashion of screaming their names off. You know, Natsu! Zerov! Visually, it's still pretty solid overall. It also plays out the same for Arcalugia against other characters. If anything, Ichiya practically stole the show, or even the arc itself. He was nice enough to help Jiao and give his speech that connects to his character well. All in all, it was nicely presented when it comes to making it significant. If only the rest of the content plays out better. The whole chapter focuses on one goal: to end the battle. To my surprise, it was actually referring to all battles, both Zerov and Arcalugia. If the chapter only focuses on that mindset, then it has to deliver on the best possible note. That being said, have I known this before? I would say that it most likely put me in tons of fear. Sadly, it is exactly how I imagine it goes down. Let's begin with Arcalugia. In my opinion, he has suffered the worst outcome of the two villains. A reminder, this way of his defeat happens in this arc, and out of nowhere. We weren't prepared for any other possibilities outside of Dragon Slayers who never play a part in hindsight. It was all done by a character that still can't persuade the audience on how it was foreshadowed or explained well enough to accept. Anna was there just to disappear in the end, all in one act of an arc. If she had been the only sacrifice, this moment would actually be worse than what it is now. Could you imagine if Arcalugia was taken out by a character that just now appeared? Yes, it's bad enough with what we received, but the damage could have been more severe. That all said, it's disappointing that she was only used for this and nothing more. Nothing about Lucy, nothing about other Dragon Slayers, just nothing. As for Arcalugia, it is highly disappointing for him to disappear just like that. Honestly, my thought of this chapter could be vastly different if he is revealed to be around and kicking. But at this time, it's a letdown. Judging by his reaction, he seems legitimately taken out, so I don't know what to think of it. The idea of using his characters in many opportunities is solely wasted. It makes it harder to endure that he was the main villain, that everyone sees him as the ultimate threat. It feels like an afterthought, and that's not good. Shift focus to Zerov. His defeat was expected, but the timing is against him, and his character suffers. He obtained the white mage status thus making him arguably the most powerful character. So why on earth he has to be defeated this soon? In the end, White Mage is pretty much a villain's power-up, and by that, I mean like this. This is the ultimate power. I have shown you the highest tier. Now find a way to overcome it, because if you do, I am guaranteed to lose. One of the major disappointments is how quickly it resolved. Zera just did his show-off moment, only to get punched a few times and then get defeated by the almighty punch. It doesn't sound like it took a lot of effort to take him down. That's because it really didn't. I was expecting a bit more ongoing moment as well as more involvement with other characters. Not to mention, his power didn't come in use as much as it could have been, which makes it pointless in the grand scheme. Sure, he could do some last moments of fame like God help the haters, revive Makarov, but in combat wise, it's pointless. Another disappointment, which referred back to the early statement, is the fact he got defeated by a single punch. After all of that taunt, philosophy talk, and feeling all high and mighty, it severely hurts the supposedly epic battle. The previous chapters have some hype for what could potentially bring everyone together, especially if Zerov is supposedly untouchable. It only leads to the same old ordeal, and it ends in a simple fashion. The line about his roaring emotion is cheesy. I know it is shonen, and I hear that thousands and thousands of times already. It doesn't mean you can write it in a weak way. The line, the coolest guy ever, for example, is among the worst line I have read in a while, and because of that, there is a line to cross for poor writing. Zero's line isn't that bad, but it could have written better or excludes it altogether. Lastly, these final battles feels like another battle to be done, and that's pretty uninspiring. It doesn't have to be over the top, flashy, or anything insane, but it could have grasped the thought of the epic finale. Instead, it feels like the usual business with another arc waiting, only this time, this is the end. Maybe somewhat gain consciousness and slowly approach Zera for something. By this point, you may either no longer care or just go, I am more on the ladder, but I am going down to see it end. Bottom line, this is a very underwhelming chapter that may either split the audience in half or haters gain new followers. I don't intend to pick a side, but all I know is I am pretty disappointed. While there is a good moment with Ichiya and there are scenes that are technically nice, the background behind them and how it leads up to it are pretty weak. With 10 chapters to go, if this is the end of grand battles, it would be tough to care for some, though even tougher to expect more. You should take my score as a grain of salt because I really don't know how to grade this, so you could call it as a very generous score, but I'm going to give this chapter a 5. We got 10 chapters to go. Maybe something else will happen, and maybe something will redeem this chapter in a way. It's still pretty damaging to see the way how it plays out. What are your thoughts on this chapter? I know there are people that likes the chapter. I know there are people that hates this chapter. I know everybody finds this chapter to be the worst chapter of all time in the series or anything else. I don't know about that. I know I'm going to continue on to see it end. I just hope the ending is any good rather than the battle, because if this is the way how it ends, then it's definitely a very disappointing one. And that will do it for the review. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you like this and want more of this, subscribe to my channel, and my world will be yours to stay. Until next time, take care.